So what's been going down? I know you guys just had a super big show with KK's Priest over at Bloodstock.
Yeah, we had a bunch of festivals in Spain and Belgium and England at Bloodstock, and it's was fantastic. Yeah, it was really great.
I mean, what's that like, being in front of those large open air crowds? Because I think every metal fan has heard the lore just of how incredible those shows can be.
Well, they're great. They're different because it's big festivals, and sometimes it's different because you don't know whether they're going to be there for you or they're tired by the end, especially if you're headlining. And um, with KK's Priest being you know new, kind of. Um, it was fantastic. I mean, the reviews and the crowds, and I mean, we couldn't have asked for anything better. I mean, we brought a pretty big show with fire and the stage setup. We had a pretty big show for them, but it was fantastic.
That's incredible. I mean, what's that dynamic like in general? Because, obviously KK's Priest, like you said, new in a sense, but I mean, yourself, KK, obviously well-established artists. What's that sort of balancing act like, balancing those two things?
Well, it's great and easy, and I think what's been great about this is the KK's Priest songs that went over so good. I mean, we have six in the set list now. It's more of a set list, kind of a built for the festivals, so it's a different type of set list. But it's amazing how good the KK's Priest songs have went over, and the crowds are singing them. So I think it's we're professionals and we're good at what we do. Uh, so it's really nice to get up there with the band's so good and we're so tight, and um, it's really exciting, to be honest. It's nice to be up there, and it's nice to be up there with this big production. I don't think people
Mhm.
expected that when we started with this, and they're like, "Holy crap, man!" And the reviews are like, the pyro and the flames. It's an incredible show. So it's been really great.
Do you feel like that's something that's sort of been lacking in rock in the last 10, 15 years? Because I mean, I haven't seen as much of that sort of pyro and effects in shows.
Well, I think the big bands still do it. I mean, I know
Mhm.
Maiden does. I know Disturbed has more fire than I've ever seen anybody in my life. I mean, I think this. I expect David to be on fire at someday.
Yeah, get a vest.
Um, I mean, big shows can do it. That's what KK's Priest wants to do. We're not going to go play small shows and small venues and small things. It's going to have to be top notch. And Ken's preached that from the start. We're only going up and doing this if we can bring a big show, And um, that's how I grew up watching shows. And I mean, listen. I love concerts in general. I mean, I love bands just as much when they just have a backdrop and they bring it. As long as the band's bringing it every night, I love it. I love live music. As long as they bring it and it's actually live, I like it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's something that we've been seeing a lot of. I mean, what are your thoughts on that whole craze of, partially live shows or sometimes, hardly live shows at all?
Well, if the guitars aren't live and the vocals aren't live, I mean, obviously you can have background noises or background choirs or, you know, that stuff's always happened. But when a singer's not actually singing, yeah, that's not good. I mean, it's amazing. I can't believe someone wants to lip sync to music, but luckily I don't have to.
Yeah, that's the good news. I mean, do you feel like there's more sort of like slack to be cut for artists who are maybe a lot older in the game who maybe are trying to compensate for, maybe let's say that vocal part isn't as good. You think that we can cut them some slack, or is it the same across the board?
No, I don't. No, there's no slack at all. I mean,
Yeah.
Ronnie James Dio brought it to the very end. So um, if you can't bring it totally, you can't bring it. I mean, I understand it.
Yeah.
Um, uh, some singers are just so bad that they have to have it. I guess. I mean, I do hear sometimes. I hear a live performance of a band, and I go, "Oh man, maybe they should have background vocals."
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Turn it up,
Um, yeah, maybe that'd be better. At least lip sync better to it, I guess. Um, no, I think it's a concert. I mean, I guess if you have to do it, you have to do it. Uh, but I prefer. I, I'm I've always prided myself on singing live what I've sang in the studio, or even tried to do it better, hold notes longer, sing it better. I've always tried to do that. Um, but I would prefer to see a band live.
Are you a big believer in like vocal warm-ups and stuff like that, or do you just sort of belt it?
I sort of belt it.
That's
I
amazing. That's amazing though.
Yeah, I always felt it. Every singer's different.
Yeah.
I remember Ronnie James Dio, a great story David Draymond told me. David said, I remember I met Ronnie and I said, Ronnie, what do you do to warm up? And Ronnie said, David, if you got to warm up, you don't have it. And
There you go.
Ronnie would warm up with a Boddington's or a Guinness. Uh, and everybody's different. And I'm kind of in that mold where I don't like to, my warm ups consist of me go, whoa,
Okay.
oh, I got it. Music. Oh, okay. There's my warm up. Um, I'm not but every singer's different. Some singers, it helps them out. They warm up and they warm down. Jeff Tate warms up before the show for a long time, and then he warms down after the show, and it's what makes him good, and that's what he does. And so I think every singer's built different. They have different techniques and different things. And I've been one that I don't talk. I don't show up until right before I sing. I don't go sightseeing. I stay in the hotel. I don't go out, and that's what I do.
What's the process for warming down? Because I've actually never heard of that.
Yeah, a lot of singers will, instead of just stopping and talking, they just sing a little bit and do exercises to just ease their voice into it afterwards. And I have some, there's some little things I might do, but I just try to I might do vocal exercises. I have an exercise ball for your muscles that I might rub on my voice, on my vocal cords and my face, and loosen up my face, but I don't do anything.
Wow, it all just comes from that natural talent.
I
Speaking
do
on
this. I do this. Please let me sing good tonight.
Yeah.
Please let me
Yeah,
sing.
that work. I do a lot of that too. It works. I have to say, it works in its moments. So speaking on the relationship with you and KK, I mean, so when you first were out of, like, you left Judas Priest, did you guys remain close at that point, or did you like rekindle for KK's Priest? What was
No,
that relationship?
Ken and I talked the most. I didn't really talk to anybody in the band, not for any reasons. We were still friends, and we would talk every now and then. It's just everybody kind of went, they did their own separate ways. They had their thing going. I had my thing going. But Ken and I always maintained more. Like when I would tour solo and I would be touring the UK, I would be playing. I played 2 hours away from him a lot in Manchester, and Ken always came out to the shows. He always came out and hung out, and he always brought a couple cases of Carling to the band. So the band it always made the band nervous though. They were always like, oh my God,
Yeah.
KK's here. I got to play good tonight. But we always maintained, conversations, and, it wasn't a ton, but we always spoke, and he'd always say, hey, you can pull a tour bus up to the house and do your laundry if you want. So we always talked.
That's amazing. I mean, what do you think, kept that relationship going with you guys as opposed to everybody else?
I don't know. I think everybody just got busy and did their thing. Always considered them family and friends, and we always had a friendship with everybody. And if I saw them, or Glenn would reach out. I would see Rob at some events, and we would always talk. And I would see him, and we had that cordial friendship. Like I said, Glenn would message every now and then, or I'd message him and say something. But Ken and I just spoke more. It was just one of those things that he would come out and hang out a bit. It was just, no, I don't know what it was, but we spoke definitely the most.
How would you say that relationship has evolved up until now? Like, what are the main differences, or is it more or less the same and you guys are just doing your thing?
It's still the same. We get along so well, and he's such an easy guy to get along with, and a good friend. And I think that's the biggest part. I think we get along well. I think there's respect as well, but we just really get along really well, and laugh a lot and have a good time.
When you talk with a guy like Rob Halford, do you guys talk about singing? Do you talk about Priest, or do you talk about none of the above?
Now we just say, "Hey, how you doing?" And he's like, "I saw you were in Russia a lot. Those fans are crazy." We just usually end up taking photos for people together and just speak about how's it going and looks like things are good and things like that. We don't really talk about the business too much at all.
Do you feel that mutual respect still with Rob? Because I feel like some people maybe try to drum up this narrative that there's some sort of rivalry, but I guess that's natural as well.
I think it made people very angry that there never really was one. I mean, there was a little bit of things said back in the day, but we've always been friends, and I've always respected him, obviously, and he's always talked well about me in the press. So I think it does make people mad that we don't hate each other and we say bad things. Uh, but definitely consider each other friends, and there's respect there.
I love that. Could you ever see a day where all of the guys from Priest, like yourself, everybody, Rob, KK, all come together for like a big performance, like a reunion?
Uh, should there be? Yes. Will there be? I don't think so. I don't think they would ever do it. Uh, they don't seem to make those kind of good decisions, so I don't think it would happen. I mean, this is a band that went to one guitar player last year, so I really don't think that it would happen. Uh, I think it would be great if they got Ken back and they did a tour. I think the world would love to see that, especially me. It definitely was not going to happen, I wouldn't think, but I think fans would love it. I think it'd be great and it would be fun. And but I don't think it'll ever happen.
Fair enough. I guess there's always hope for us fans here in the back of my mind. I'll keep some hope.
Well, right now I'm just enjoying this KK's pre stuff, and
Of
I think
course.
our goal is to rock the world with this show.
Yeah, well, definitely mission accomplished there, man. People are loving it, and since the beginning they've been loving it. Another cool thing I saw from you was you did a new version of "See You in Hell." Of course, a
Yeah.
tribute to Steve Grimmett. What can you tell the people about that song and Steve Grimmett as an artist?
Well, Steve came up to one of my shows once, and obviously I was a fan. I mean, I was a kid listening to "See You in Hell" in the '80s, right? And then Nick Bocott and I became friends first because he worked at Marshall, and we became good friends, and we jammed a lot together throughout the years. And Steve came out to one of my shows, and we became friends. And then he sang on a tour with the Three Trimmers with us once when Harry Conklin couldn't do it. And um, it was so sad. I think, oh, you know what? Steve and I met first in South America. We did a festival together, and him and I met. But we became really good friends and loved him a lot. And when Nick asked me to do it, Nick messaged me and said, "Do I want to do it?" And I was like, "Oh man, that's a lot of pressure to sing on something like that." But I really did it because we were such good friends, and I know it meant a lot to Nick. Nick's like the only person I really think of singing it is you. And I was friends with Steve's wife, and Steve's brother and I talked. So I was like, I think this is a great thing to do. I mean, it's such a great tribute, and it meant a lot to me. And I put a lot of time to try and do the song justice and sing it. So it meant a lot to do it.
Yeah, incredible version too. I mean, when you do that, are you like recording yourself? Because it seemed like you were at sort of your own setup.
Yeah, I record right here at my house, the same place I recorded KK's Priest, the new record. I just do it in my
Wow.
studio here, and I just sit in a chair and I belt it out.
I mean, what's that like, sort of like engineering it yourself while you sing?
Well, it's easy to be a singer. We got it. It's great. It's pretty
You got
basic.
that
I
part
just have a
down.
laptop and a version of Pro Tools and my Shure microphone like you there, and I sit there and um, I just do it. It's kind of fun.
I love the fact too that, when you rely on that natural ability, I guess the production process isn't a nightmare. I mean, there's probably not that much to ultimately add to the vocal.
Well, that's how I try to send it. I send a lot of tracks, and I try to make it where they don't have to do much. They just have to fit it right in, and it works out, and that's it. They can run with it.
That's amazing. I mean, was that something that you picked up later in your career, or did you start off like sort of doing it that way?
I started doing it probably when I started doing Beyond Fear, and then I just, now I sit here and record all the time. People get a hold of me at rippervocals@gmail.com. And that's rippervocals@gmail.com. And I do a ton of side things for people. When I have my off time, what do? If I don't do anything, I make a living doing music. So I sit here and I record vocals for bands and all over the world, songs. And it's really fun to do. And I've learned to do it. And I've learned to do it really well. I mean, the vocals on the new KK's Priest record are just amazing. And I sat here and it took me a long time to talk Ken into letting me do my vocals here, because Ken wanted me to come out there with everybody else. I'm like, hey, I could just do it here.
That's right.
I could sit, do it, come out and have a cup of coffee. I could take my time and get the best character out of my voice. And it's fun to do.
That's incredible. So it took a little convincing, but obviously he was very happy with the product.
Yeah, I mean, it's KK. He's old school. It took him a while to fathom that I could do these vocals at home. He wanted me there. And I did. I talked to him finally one day when he said, yeah, you can record them there. I'm like, oh, good.
That's amazing, though. I mean, you mentioned like doing things for other groups. Do you think there's, any way not to be sort of an everyman in this business today? Because almost everybody I know, they have their hand in multiple parts of the music business, not just one thing.
Well, if that's your way of, if you can make a living doing it, that's how you have to do it.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I mean, what's the alternative? I come home from touring and go to a regular job, or I come home from touring and do music for a living. So that's what I do. I mean, last year I released my solo EP, Return to Death Row, and probably got some of the best reviews ever. And now I'm full on with KK's Priest. So that's how you do it. That's how it's not the 80s. People have to do this.
That's the thing. Speaking on the business developing and moving, obviously we're seeing a big writer's strike right now in Hollywood and film. There's been a lot of criticism about, royalties and pay rates with companies like Spotify, Apple Music. Do you think that there could ever be any form of organized strike for musicians in response to some of these things in the business?
I don't think it's going to do anything. I mean, that's just, there is bands that won't put it on there. I know Three Trimmers didn't put anything on. The only time it made it to Apple or a Spotify would be if we released a video of the song. But I know the last record wasn't. But you have to do it. I mean, Spotify is a total ripoff. You get no money from it. You could have 1 million listens and you hardly get any money.
Yeah.
But I look at it now as it does suck and it's such a ripoff. But hopefully people will hear it and go buy it or come to your concerts. I mean, that's the only way you're going to be able to do it now. But I don't see how there would ever be a strike from it. I guess you could just not put it on there. But that's about it.
Do you think there should be some form of union or some sort of protection for artists? Or do you feel like right now it's the best way, even though there's a lot of pitfalls in it?
I think it would be nice if there was, but I think it's too late now. And, unions are good and unions are bad. So I don't know. It would just, if you have unions, I have a feeling it would just make everything else go up too. So I think, here's our price from our money from Spotify just went up to double, but our CDs are now $25, $30 a piece because we're unions. So, I mean, it's a hard situation. I think eventually they're going to have to raise it a little bit, and do it. But I mean, that's the world we're in now. I mean, that's hard to, I mean, look at all the big stink now is that venues get half of your money from your merch sales. I mean, how horrible that to me is worse than even Spotify. I mean, you're selling your stuff there. Your guy's selling your stuff at the venues.
Yeah.
And you got to pay them half your money. So it's just amazing.
I think the venues actually are probably a lot worse because they're all around. The greed is, unfathomable compared to, Spotify.
Yeah. You're going to have the bands out by the bus selling their merch pretty soon.
Yeah. I mean, the bands will be the bootleggers themselves. God, what a day. We're not far off.
Yeah.
Listen, man, I really appreciate you taking the time, Tim. I know you added a slot here to give me some time. So I just want to say thank you so much, man. And we'll add the links for everybody to go check you out.
All right. You got it, buddy.